Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to the JUSTNature webinar. So today we're going to be talking about JustPlanT, which was a tool developed by the JustNature project. We work on nature-based solutions for a Horizon EU funded project. And today we're going to have two people talking about their experiences implementing JustPlanT, nature method toolkit that was developed in our project. So we have Sonia here talking. The previous head of our JustNature project, and also Dr. Edward Duca.
Hello, everyone. Lovely to meet you.
Hello.
Okay.
So I think we can get started because there seems to be no more people joining as far as I can see on the list. So first of all, Sonia will be talking, and she's going to give us an overview of the toolkit and how it was developed, as she's the brains behind all of this, really. And then we're going to have a session where you can actually try out the toolkit yourself. So we're going to have an interactive session with a mural, where we can test out this board game that was developed. Then Ed's going to talk about some of his experiences implementing the toolkit in the real world in our hearing in Malta in Gzira. And we're also going to have an opportunity for questions. So you'll have a chance to go over any discussion points you might have after trying out the game. So feel free, if you have questions, to put them in the chat. After Sonia's talk, there'll be a brief 5 or so minutes to ask questions as well, if you have anything directly that you want to ask her. And feel free to put up your hand or ask any questions that you have for us in the meantime. Okay, so Sonia, I will hand over to you.
Thank you very much, actually, for the introduction. So give me a moment to share the presentation. And thanks again also for the invitation. As mentioned just previously, I'm actually the former, project lead of the JustNature project, and I'm still quite dedicated to its different activities. So, wrong slide. Let me just start from the very beginning. So you should be able to see the presentation. And I'm trying to be short with regard to my presentation and really only provide you a little bit of an overview and also the thinking behind the development of particularly one of the outcomes or outputs of the JustNature project, which should allow in a very practical way to actually approach aspects of justice, and in particular, ecological space justice. So what I'm trying to do as a very introduction is to provide you some insights on why ecological space justice actually matters, and but also how it can be navigated in practice, and how actually the JustPlanT method kits that I'm then or at least briefly introducing might help you in doing that as well. But of course, as Emma already indicated, there is an opportunity to actually test it and to use it, although it's a printed out actually method kit, but at the same time you can use or you can see how it can also be digitally used and applied, and at the same time what kind of practical way forward it might provide. But at the same time, it's also for us an opportunity to get feedback from you as practitioners in different areas, but also coming potentially from the academia, and see what it might imply, or what challenges there still are ahead, what gaps it does still have, but also what opportunities you might see with regard to the use of the actual toolkit. And then just getting rid of this part so that I can actually see my presentation. Just as a very introduction, but it's all as a part of, let's say, the background, conceptual background and framework of the method kit and of JustPlanT as well. But it's important to understand a little bit the thinking behind it, and what actually led to its development, but also what the challenges are. Different aspects of what I'm presenting are then introduced in the method kit as such. So you will find some of the background information there. But just as an important aspect, of course, one of the classic models when it comes particularly to urban development refers to those that you see in the image, and especially used quite often in the United States, where especially urban development was seen something that develops out of a market or central business district, and especially how people then, what kind of travel costs they face, and as such different zones that are appearing linked to this kind of traveling from a market or central business district to actually other zones, like of course better residences zones, but also independent workers' homes and things like that. And all those different models over the years have become more sophisticated, as you see also in the image, particularly with regard to the last model that is here presented from Harris and Ullman. And where at the same time, those models are still lacking some important information or background. And I don't know whether you have already or can already suggest or have already an idea what it might imply. But basically, it refers to the aspect of the environment. So these kind of models do not necessarily consider how cities or how urban, let's say, center, or how different zones develop across a defined environment, across a defined morphology of the city. And as such, of course, there are some dangers or risks linked to it. What I'm then presenting is usually, if these kind of models are used, what you very often have is cities that are resulting from the drawing board. I usually present here the example of Valdeluz in Spain, where basically a city was developed out of, let's say in the blue, but also in a defined landscape. But it was basically drawn on in a very standardized way. And also when it comes to the landscape, which you see on the picture at the right, it was very kind of structured in a very defined way with a very defined vision in mind. And of course, over especially the crisis in 2008, it has resulted in sometimes very empty cities. And at the same time, you might have a look of what is happening now to those cities and to those cities or to those ghost towns, how they have been referred to, and whether that might have changed over time. There is a risk of not considering how cities are developing in a defined landscape and what it implies also for the people then living there as well. But the problem or puzzle that particularly concerns the JUSTNature project and informed it with regard to the development of the different outputs and the different thinkings and way forward was especially that cities are affected by also increasing income and wealth inequalities, but also discriminations. And of course, these also drive certain urban spatial disparities, as we call them. At the same time, of course, over many decades, what also has happened is that we ever more have, especially those dispersed or isolated urban elements when it comes to biodiversity, or those considered of high biodiversity value, but also of recreational value. So some might be profiting more from them than others when it comes to those elements. But also when it comes to transformation processes per se, so when it comes to how the face of a city changes, certain neighborhoods are impacted differently compared to other neighborhoods. And of course, that has some impacts as well. But one particular concern is, of course, the environmental and climate impact, that those are not necessarily distributed evenly. And as we are talking here, of course, about the activation of nature-based solution, I'm seriously not going to dive into the actual term or what it is and what it implies, because I hope everyone knows a little bit what it refers to. There are, of course, different definitions when it comes to nature-based solution, but the most important thing is here about, of course, protection, sustainably managing and restoring natural and modified ecosystems. But the most important thing that they are expected to address societal challenges simultaneously. And very often this refers especially to climate change, biodiversity loss, but also increasingly human well-being. But one of the challenges, as nature-based solutions have been appearing more and more on the actual policy and planning agenda, is that very often there is still a gap between theory and practice. Very often they're highly selective how they're implemented to tackle a defined challenge and not necessarily several at the same time. Sometimes they're very fast-tracked and piecemeal. They're partially inclusive, and very often biodiversity is a byproduct, especially when it comes to implementing them in cities. And yeah, sometimes what is a solution is is also sometimes the problem, and we might come back to that as well when you're trying to actually use the toolkit. But how navigate those systemic complex challenges? That was one of our questions. How can we address justice aspects, of course, or at least when it comes to, I don't know, environmental and climate impacts in the city, but also how activate nature-based solutions in a way to allow to address those challenges simultaneously, like climate change and biodiversity. And one of the things that we particularly considered important was to introduce a strategic and systemic thinking and planning as part of activating nature-based solutions. And that implies not necessarily looking only into how things are, for example, looking how where there is a certain defined environmental inequality, but especially how or what should or needs to be, especially when it comes then to considering what is just, for example, with regard to environmental aspects. And that is a process, and it's a process, a claim-making process that is looking into or trying to answer questions about who gets what, who gets asked how, but also who is to be held accountable when it comes to certain impacts as such. And all this thinking has informed the development of the method kit and to put it then into practice as well. And of course, it's not easy to talk and start talking about justice as well. And also this was a core component of the development of the method kit, because there are so many different shades of justice you can refer to, from social justice, which I'm referring here as well, to actually a long history of environmental justice scholarship that has been looking especially into how environmental qualities are distributed, but also new emerging concepts, such as in relation to climate justice, but also in relation to concepts like just transition that try to integrate all those different, let's say, shades of justice as such, and to find a common ground in relation to that. And of course, it can become quite complex, and then leaving it there, because what we try to do with the method kit is really reducing the complexity and trying to find a playful way on how to address it. And what we did is particularly introduce a new concept. And you might now argue, that's making it even more complicated or complex. But basically talking about ecological space justice. Because what we wanted to emphasize and also find a way on how to integrate nature-based solutions in these justice discussions is to say that all human interactions with a non-human world are basically occurring within a single biophysical reality. That sounds complicated, but it just means that it's not about nature and human beings, but it's about humans in nature and actually being part of it and a central part of it as well. And considering this as well as part of the planning. Not going to, you probably heard already a lot about just nature. I don't know. But of course, the overall objective, it's important to emphasize that also we had to focus on some defined challenges, also to narrow it down, but as kind of an entry point when we were actually discussing how to shape a just transition, especially to low carbon cities. And what we looked into is especially aspects like clean air, but also indoor, outdoor, thermal comfort, but also thriving biodiversity and ecosystems. And that has also informed the development of the method kit and what you might then experience as well. And of course, that means it has a defined thematic focus when it discusses certain aspects of environmental justice or ecological space justice. And because I know I have limited amount of time, and I seriously do not want to take away the time from you experience and a little bit working also with the method kit, I'm going to skip over this, basically saying that's one of the challenges that still remains, is to really activate nature-based solutions, not only for defined single functions, but have something that goes also beyond multifunctionality, but can be really transformative, and especially helps to guide the planning of the cities and their strategic development in something that addresses a good life, let's say, in everybody's backyard, and approaches, let's say, the planning and the development of cities, particularly from that perspective. But also when it comes then to the activation of nature-based solution and linked also to the aim of the project, what we try to do is to activate them in a way that considers a hierarchical way or way forward. And this is important because we thought it's important when it comes to justice aspects, ecological justice aspects, and of course activating nature-based solution, that we have a defined way forward, because it's not necessarily you have always win-win situations across different challenges and injustice challenges. And you need some kind of compass or framework to navigate different decisions, and also to address at the same time different injustices, environmental injustice challenges as such. One thing I'm highlighting here is especially the action hierarchy, because that also informs the use of the method kit, which was basically not only looking when activating nature-based solution in how to protect certain ecosystems, manage them differently, restore them, create new, but also at the very beginning see, is our nature-based solution the right answer to the problem? So that's an important aspect also to consider before you even start. But also to say it's more important to kick off to see where I can protect certain ecosystems before actually going and creating new, such as, for example, green roofs or also green walls. So we have here defined a very clear when it comes to activating them. And for the time before you kick off and basically also try to experience and work a little bit with the method kit, I'm just briefly introducing our thinking behind JUSTPlanT and how it looks like and how it was shaped, but also to get your feedback on its different approaches and the different tool. Because I have some time left with regard to introducing it, please do not mind if I'm skipping over some slides. The slides will be shared afterwards, so you get some insights there as well with regards to the presentation. What has it tried to do? It's all about strategic planning, which means, yeah, it's about not necessarily going sometimes in the very detailed of the planning as such, but something that allows to also develop some kind of vision when it comes to a city, and also see, but identify first ways forward when it comes then to the activation of nature-based solutions. And as such, yes, it tries to especially address public administration, urban planners, but also citizens and neighborhood initiatives that can in case use and apply JUSTPlanT as a kind of method kit for, let's say, their different activities. This is how it's structured. Don't get overwhelmed. I hope my colleagues are then sharing the link where you can download JUSTPlanT and the method kit, and you can then further actually have a look at it and of course experience it, and also then hopefully kick off and work with it. But basically what it does, it's of course, it provides some background information about its use and development, and I'm just very briefly going to show you what that implies. It introduces the conceptual framework. So the long introduction that I have provided you at the very beginning, it has been outlined in a very, let's say, also not necessarily simple, but a less complex way than probably I have just done, and providing you the thinking behind the development of the method kit, but also that you have the basis to use it, and also to trigger off some thinking behind such, let's say, complex issues as well. And then it introduces different modules that have been developed as part of the method kit. And I'm briefly going to introduce the thinking behind that. But most important, it has an annex with loads of material to print, handouts, but also, let's say, different set of tokens to be used, because what it aims to do is to approach really in a playful way, discussing aspects of ecological space justice in your city and how to approach the city in a more strategic way in this regard. And how it has been structured, as said, it consists of different modules. Very briefly, then afterwards, going to introduce some of the modules. The important thing here is that you can use the modules individually, but you can use them all in a different workshop setting in 2 days of workshops if you would like to do so. But what is the aim? The aim is really, first of all, to develop different visions, different options when it comes, for example, then to nature-based solution design in your city, but also when it comes to the maintenance. And you see already in one of the pictures at the right how it actually looks like and what it is and what it includes. But most importantly, that it has been structured in a very defined way, all the different modules, so that you can have an easy access to how to use it, how to approach it, with the aim explained, how to prepare, how to carry out the activity, but also an explanation of the methods, the materials to print, but also if you would like to have some further reading and to dive into it. And it has been tested, and that's also an important thing. So it has not been just developed, I don't know, in some lonely place with very few people working on it, but also testing it throughout different workshops. And you will get some insights in this regard as well. And what you can see with regards to the different modules, I've only shown very briefly. It consists of overall 6 modules, which on the one hand, for example, module 1 is really about identifying key challenges in a city, key injustices when it comes to certain aspects that are affecting a city. Module 2 is more about, and how do I then activate nature-based solution? Whereas module 3 is about, how to set up nature-based solution for actually group inclusiveness. And module 4 is about then seeking inspiration. Now that I know at least a little bit of where I want to activate for what kind of groups, then to really see how am I going to forward with that and what do I consider. But also to consider the different potentials across a city, and that's approached in module 5. But also see how those nature-based solutions that are being activated might actually be affected by future scenarios, and to do that in a collaborative way as well. And all those different modules can, as said, be combined, and you find some indications on how that might be the case as well. And I'm skipping this one because I know I'm running out of time. And it's the most important thing that you also experience and work with it, because then questions come easier when it comes to how to apply it and how to use it. But here are just some examples about the material that has been provided, that it consists of different handouts that explains all the different justice challenges that have been introduced as part of the method kit, but also the action hierarchy, for example, I have introduced, and what does it mean? What does it imply? But also the different injustice tokens, set of tokens with which you can work and hopefully you can now experience with. And at the same time, also the inspiration cards and how you can use them as well. But of course, and I'm stopping and ending here because I know I'm already rather late, but there are some challenges ahead, also when it comes to the use of JUSTPlanT as a method kit, as a practical way forward in really discussing ecological space justice and the challenges and how to activate nature-based solutions in order to address them, and how this can be done in a practical way. And of course, I'm just providing this as an example. Sometimes it's very difficult to address several challenges at the same time, and where to find an entry point and not to lose yourself in the complexity. So hopefully we were able to address and provide one way forward on how to do it. And sometimes it's also the issue that still it's loads about big data collection and things like that. And we have not necessarily enough of human insights. But how can we, as we get with the use of JUSTPlanT as a method kit, more human insights on the challenges in a city? How can we use that in a more, let's say, scale up way as well? And of course, I'm stopping here with some questions I would like to actually put up to you, also to, in case, trigger some discussions in this regard, but potentially also to keep in mind when we are now a little bit diving into the more interactive part, whether there are some risks of justice becoming just another buzzword or justice washing, for example, when it comes to nature-based solutions. But also whether you think the method kit is really helpful in navigating the complexity of justice considerations. And yeah, looking forward to your actually input in this regard as well. But I'm stopping here also to see whether there are some immediate questions. And I hope I have not been rushing too much through the presentation. And lucky us, they will be shared then afterwards. But Emma, I'd like to also give the floor to you in case.
Yeah, so next, as promised, we're going to be diving into the interactive part, but I would just quickly ask if anyone has any questions right now for Sonia that have just sprung to mind. And if not, we will move on to the mural. Okay, so I think that means we can go ahead. So the next part, as promised, we're going to be doing an interactive session where you actually try out the method kit yourself. And hopefully Sonia's background is going to give you some things to think about while we show you the game and how it looks. And you're going to come up with your own justices and injustices. So could we... Okay, thank you, Ed.
So I've just shared the link to the mural. You can all access it. And we spent quite a bit of time turning, I think, the fantastic idea of JUSTPlanT into this interactive mural for you. Just a word of caution, the city map is something Amanda I created. But it's meant to give you a flavor of how it can be used in your own city or area. So I took this from the JUSTPlanT toolkit. We've already searched the Zenodo link. You can access everything. And I've done a step-by-step what we're going to do today. And this is going to be just for 10, 15 minutes or so. And I'll guide you quickly. So this is the city we're going to play with. Here we have areas of affluent areas, or social housing areas, or an industrial site, commuter zone that is probably heavily trafficked, highly commercial riverside. So that's going to be affluent. It's next to the expensive housing because they have green areas, blue, and so on. And then a high residential density, less affluent, further away. And we added for kicks a university area with nearby student housing and a nearby industrial area over here. And these are just, you know, we are laid these out so that you can get a flavor for the cards. You've got the module 1, 2, and 3. So we didn't put all the 6 modules. That would be too much information. And these are the injustice cards. So there's air quality, thermal, injustices, carbon, lack of biodiversity, so flora, non-inclusiveness, and you can access these on the mural in the presentation outline. If you press on module 1, 2, or 3, it will go to different sections and the city map also. And the idea is, let's say you think there might be an air quality injustice, you just click on it, you copy it, and so you just do copy object, and then you can do paste as well. I like to use the keyboard links. So Control V, and it will copy and it will paste it. And then you can grab it, you go on your city map, and I think that's going to be in the commuter zone. That's probably going to be highly trafficked. And I leave it there, and that's my injustice. I might be, okay, where might there be an air quality justice? So a good level, I copy it, I select it, copy it, paste it, and then I move it to the affluent area in the green area, for example. I'm going to delete these so that you can come up with the ones that you feel like. You can already start if you want. I've put instructions on the side, and basically just spend a few minutes just so you get an idea of the toolkit. Again, if anyone gets any questions, feel free to ask. So module 1 is about justices and injustices. So justice would be, it's a good quality area. But an injustice could be that it's highly trafficked, for example. It could be spatial injustice, so access to resources, and use your imagination. This is a fictional city. Module 2 would then be trying to see which nature-based solutions would address those. So let's say we've identified an injustice in the industrial site. Maybe over there, we should have to address that Riverside green. So again, you just click on it, copy, paste, and you go there. I'm going to remove that. So first lay out the justices and injustices, and then move on to module 2. You can click on the presentation outline, and you can see all the different types of nature-based solutions. If you don't like any that we've given you, you can click on the one of create your own, and do it in that way. You can also use the sticky notes feature of Mural, where you, on the left over here, there's sticky notes. You press that and it will give you, I don't know, maybe you want to do a reservoir, for example. And you drag that as well. That would also work, for example. So that's module 2, that's your nature-based solutions. And then since the Just Nature project is very focused on a just transition, there's also module 3, which is like, who do you need to include to make the NbS more inclusive? So are we forgetting migrants? Are we forgetting pensioners? Are we forgetting the young people? Do we need to include children? Do we need to encourage high-income groups into an area to diversify the population there? These sort of ideas. And then the same thing, you just click on it, copy, paste. So Control C, Control V, and move it to wherever you want. Okay, I'm going to leave it on your city map now so everyone can see what's happening. Thank you for playing with it. This is working really well. This was a bit of an experiment for us. And yeah, Sonia or Emma, if you at any point want to comment on what we're seeing, go ahead. But otherwise, I'm going to mute myself and let you guys explore this without my voice droning in the background.
I might include my voice a little bit, but as Edward said, please just play with it. There's no right and wrong. It's basically just to see how you use it, and also to have some some really hands-on experience in applying it. Of course, with regards to method kits, then there is a defined way forward described in how to use it and how to involve, let's say, also citizens if you're going to involve them, but also planners, to really discuss it, to use it as a kind of a way to approach certain challenges as well. But at the same time, it's interesting to see what you might experience. Afterwards, anyway, you will get also some hands-on insights on its use and the challenges of its practical application, and from Edward in particular and Emma, and how it has been applied in one defined city. But for the time being, it's really up to you to see how to use it. You see also some empty ones. This, just as a background information, they have been included as such also as part of the method kit of JUSTPlanT, because of course we are aware that there are gaps, that we might not have addressed all, let's say, challenges, injustice challenges. We might not necessarily have addressed all nature-based solution categories, but also when it comes to group inclusiveness. And those empty ones you can use to provide your own, to further develop it, to put in your own ideas as well, and to see how it works. Usually what also happens, and you can just listen to my background voice, is that, of course, during this kind of exercise, you're discussing the things with your fellow participants. So yeah, I see actually this kind of challenge. And do I think nature-based solution or this category might be the most useful issue or not, and for what reasons, and really to identify certain challenges when it comes to it. It's a little bit more difficult to do it on, let's say, not necessarily clearly identifiable city, but it's a good way forward in experimenting with it. And I see you're rather active, so happy to see, and that it works quite nicely in a digital form as well. Because as you have seen from the different pictures, what we have done so far is mainly using it in workshop settings and in person, and really to have it applied there as well. But if anyone has some immediate also questions, or I do not understand that, do not hesitate to actually unmute yourself, or drop us a message in case into the chat. And I'm going to check whether there are any issues. But so far, I see you quite nicely playing with it. And afterwards, we, after the brief insights anyway from its actual application in a city, we will then have opportunity to discuss what you have experienced and how, whether it worked nicely or not, and really getting your input in this regard as well. So let's see what kind of challenges have. Oh, I see at least also some justice tokens and cards that have been used. And nicely. Interesting that in relation to the social housing, you have loads of injustices.
Also, there's someone who really wants the whole riverside greened. An ambitious project, but I think there are examples of that and the benefits of that. If we zoom in on the social housing, we're seeing a lot of different injustices, needing to include young people there and low-income groups, and the nature-based solutions are very. I think these are the urban farming and
the gardening.
Yeah. If we move on to the highly commercial, we're thinking about more parks and maybe a technological solution also, maybe through sensors, smart lighting, and also urban farming as well. the okay, the highly residential density. So again, we have terminal injustices, you know, the heat island effect, spatial. This one, if I expand it a bit, I can read it. Spatial as well. And thinking needing more roof gardens because of the high density, more parks, green terraces. This is really good. I like it a lot. And I think it shows the power of this because when we did actually use it, we did see that you can actually, you know, you have 6 people around the table. You can quite quickly map an area. I mean, we've been doing this for 12, 13 minutes, and I think you can see that we've covered the whole area with ideas. And I think I can highlight the issues with this as well. Are there any questions or reflections about this by anyone? And thank you for interacting, because these interactive bits are always scary because it depends on other people actually enjoying it. Sorry, I removed temporal justice. Don't worry, don't worry. I'll find it and add it again.
But it's also interesting to see what the people are focusing on. So I see loads of thermal actually, justice or injustices, but especially thermal justice when it comes to parks and green areas that are available, but also when it comes to major roads, potentially air quality. So it's interesting what kind of focus you put there as well. However, I suggest otherwise, if you would like, then to dive into and to provide a concrete example of the city.
Yes.
And then we can come back to it for the discussion as well.
I think so. Let me share my screen. Are you seeing it?
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. So this is work done by the University of Malta, the Gzira Local Council, and the Research Innovation Unit. And we did this a couple of years ago. Emma prepared the slides, that I'm presenting. And that collaboration between the university and local authorities and the research unit was essential. Just a bit of background. This is an overview of Gzira. You're seeing a lovely fort and green area. That is Manuel Island. And otherwise, apart from that, it is a highly densely populated area that is highly trafficked. It is a commuter zone, which obviously leads to pollution, the urban heat island effect, and lots of there's a waste problem also because of that density. So there's a high transit population. 60% of people now are foreigners, 40% are local. The locals tend to be older, whilst the foreign population tends to be younger. There are some families, but there's a lot of people who are coming to work, and a lot of them also have precarious work and housing situations. The green areas are the Council of Europe and Manuel Island. Both of those areas have been threatened with development. There is a current development in the Council of Europe Gardens, but that is limited to the marina area. There was a petrol station that was going to be built in the middle of the garden. Thankfully, the local council managed to prevent that. And also Manuel Island was going to be quite substantially built up with over 100 apartments and commercial sites. But currently that has also been managed to be stopped. So some good outcomes at least. There's low-income earner, renters, working class households, temporary migrant workers. These are all vulnerable groups, students and young adults, and elderly who have pensions that are rising very slowly. And these pictures that you're seeing are from the workshops we did in schools, events we did in the green areas, to show that they can be used, they can come alive. The people in the area want these things. It's not that they don't want greenery or they don't like trees or any of these sort of misconceptions or surveys and so on, so that there is in fact a great desire for it. This is the JUSTPlanT workshop that we did. And we were 3 different groups in Malta. We had 2 academics, 3 industry representatives, 14 public sector employees, and a civil society member. The 3 different groups varied in how they did, and it depended a lot on the moderator. So this game is this toolkit is dependent on moderator who is aware of the power dynamics, ensuring inclusivity. It's also very important that you've got good note takers to document, record, so that you can go from module to module in a clear, structured fashion and not lose information. In Gzira, one of the problems, and it's a problem that happened with JUSTNature throughout the project, is the involvement of the citizens in the area, the residents in the area. And these are some of the pictures of the actual outcomes from the different groups. This one has quite a good balance of justice and injustices, nature-based solutions. So the game really worked in generating ideas. The air quality injustice came up through the pollution and congestion. Okay, my screen went blank. Okay, can you see it again? Yes, brilliant, thank you. Sorry about that. The terminal injustice, and I think Fabian Borg, he did a heat mapping from remote sensing, and it was about 5 to 8 degrees higher than nearby areas with trees. Like the university where I am, where it's cooler. Spatial injustice, about housing. The justice is that the coastline is accessible. Biodiversity injustice, that there aren't many different species there. Although a mapping project by the Gzira Local Council and Research Innovation Unit identified over 500 trees. And the justice currently is that Manuel Island till now hasn't been developed. Carbon injustices as well, as you can read. So as you can see, there's more injustices really than justices in the areas. And in fact, there was a lot of nature-based solution ideas and some good ideas, like improved water drainage in the Kapara Junction, which is in this area over here, greening along the promenade, promoting more green roofs and green balconies, more urban agriculture, more community gardens. And now you come to the lessons learned. It was impossible for us to implement all the nature-based solutions. The project had a very limited budget. Basically, we could green Slima Road, which we did, and we also greened with another project a school, the playground of a school, and with this project we replicated that in a different school and did knowledge building, knowledge sharing through workshops, activities, and so on. And we've identified an additional area that we also wanted to green. We did suffer bottlenecks in the implementation of the community garden in the Council of Europe because of legal and political reasons. In fact, one of the participants did say that they wanted more policymakers. What they mean is probably people from certain ministries who have the power to actually implement nature-based solutions on a central government level. Because Malta has a central government which has most of the power, and the local councils don't have big budgets or power. Within the workshop itself, there was a bit of a power dynamic between the experts and the citizens, with some not being felt. We had invited an architect to this meeting who was designing some things and being open to discussion, to new ideas was necessary. The game did help in creating a really solid discussion in the table I was moderating. It was fantastic. I loved it, the ideas we got. And obviously, who comes to your workshop is very important. So some social groups, migrant groups, were missing. My screen again went black, but let's see if maybe I can exit my full screen. And yes, and what I wanted to end on is that the JUSTNature project is not just Gzira. We've also got Hania, Zombatli, Morano, and Merano, and Bolzano, Munich, and Leuven, who are doing some excellent work as well. So I want to end there. Are there any questions about this and so on, and also about Sonia's part?
So it's basically now up to you also to provide
Yes.
us some feedback. I'm putting up, and potentially then we can share the screen with the mural as well, just to see what came out of as a result, and that might trigger some discussions in this regard. But when it comes to some of the key questions that we had in mind, was really to ask you about whether from all the different things that you have just heard and that have been presented, whether do you see still some major gaps of the method kit? Of course, it takes some time to really dive into, but just from your brief experience from the presentations, but also whether you see major opportunities. Some have been mentioned by Edward, for example, to create a safe space to approach justice issues. But whether you would apply this kind of method kit also in your daily work, and if you have some concrete examples how you would apply it, whether it's more at the city level or whether you would actually dive into a concrete site and trying to use it there, because that's also a possibility. So leaving you a little bit with those questions and see whether there's anything from your side that you think important. As I do not see whether there are hands raised, or is there something in the chat?
Till now, no. Should we share the poll, or would you like to do that later?
Later, then, as a final. For the
As a
time
final thing,
being,
okay.
yeah. If there are some issues, some things you would like to discuss, and but potentially, Edward, if you would like, or Emma, to share the mural, that we can also see the results, I think that might be helpful as well.
Let me figure this out.
And I'm having a look in the chat.
Okay. So that's our mural. And zoom in on the different areas. Did people enjoy playing with the mural? Did they find it useful? Was it too far removed from your reality, or does it seem like something that can be used? You can even just type on the chat this kind of stuff.
There was at least a thumbs up. That's great.
Okay, so Leo Gao said it's an effective tool. Quickly, people can get engaged. Thank you.
Also, if you're keen, you can also unmute yourself using the microphone or raise your hands.
So here, the high residential density got a lot of nature-based solutions, and
And I see a hand raised. Feel free
Okay.
to unmute yourself and...
Oh, hello. Hi, this is Lei Gao from Norwegian University of Life Sciences, and I happened to see this webinar and found this very interesting. And my question is about for the participants, if they, based on their own experience, and then they answer the question, as the researchers may be able to collect some knowledge. But I'm just wondering about the depths, because sometimes some problems or challenges are not immediately seen. In this sense, how will you guide this tool, or how, just to guide the discussion in another level of depth? Yeah, thank you.
Shall I answer? Thank you very much for the question. I think what was still missing here, at least when using the mural, are also the inspiration cards. Because on the inspiration cards, you have more details when it comes to all that goes with injustice challenges, but also what scientific background there is, or what kind of background information, how certain nature-based solution might contribute in addressing certain injustices. So providing this kind of background, at least as a first step, is included there as a kind of inspiration. Then there are also handouts as part of the method kit, where you can have further reading, and you can print those handouts so that if people would like to further dive into, have a little bit more background information, so they can actually collect it. One other thing we also try to do is, for example, as part of module 6, more specifically, to really integrate quantitative findings, for example, when it comes to scenarios, climate scenarios, and how at least also the research community can present those in a workshop setting, and then to continue working with the more, let's say, interactive part and defining different scenarios and what kind of impact that might have. And that at least helps to integrate those different kind of knowledges. So both when it comes to scientific research knowledge, at the same time also with the local knowledge of where the impact might be biggest or things like that. So really the aim was to integrate those further knowledge, but there might be some challenges still ahead with regard to that. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think also the comment about the speed, that this can be used to map. I mean, in 15 minutes, we managed, if that was a real map of Gzira or some other city area in Europe, you know, this can be used really quickly. And I noticed that our group was really focused on the social housing area and also the high residential density, less affluent area. And I think the fact that we're doing this graphically makes you quickly realize that we're basing a lot of our energy and ideas on where there are the most people, which probably are the people that might need it the most, which maybe shows that we're quite a nice group on this webinar, and probably shows our interest also in just transitions. So I find that incredibly interesting.
And there has been another comment in the chat as well, that from someone that is experienced in using it both printed out and virtually, and that it seems easier to use it in a digital on the mural because you can more easily work with it. So that might be actually for us an incentive to develop something that can be used then also online, but in case also for the people themselves to develop something, how it can be approached online and in a playful way as well.
I had a quick question because I actually joined the project after these sessions were run. But how do you deal with it if you do see situations cropping up during the workshops where you feel like there's a really strong power dynamic, or is that really in the hands of the facilitator? But I notice it can be a difficult thing to address if you feel like there's a really dominant voice in the room, for example. do you have any practical advice for people that might be running sessions like this?
I like to use words and comments like, and now let's give someone who hasn't spoken a chance to speak, and emphasizing those sort of comments where if I see a dominant voice, I tell them, thank you for sharing that. Can someone else who hasn't spoken speak? If people respected the rules of engagement and setting rules of engagement also at the start of the workshop, it works. When they don't respect the rules of engagement, and this happened not in this workshop, in a separate one, then it gets a bit more tricky and starts to become more conflict management and trying to reduce the risk, and things escalating. But usually when it's a matter of dominant voices and so on, it can be addressed by rules of engagement at the start and throughout the workshop, ensuring that the people who haven't spoken have a chance to speak. So once someone has finished their point, you thank them for it and just ask others to contribute. Or let's say they play a card. In this case, you can ask them, can you comment on why you played that card? So to make it a bit easier for them to share their opinion.
So insights like that are provided to a certain extent in the method kit as well, because it's based on the experience, also based on the experience from the people actually using it and applying it already. And so there are some suggestions in there, but of course it's not a completely step-by-step and considering all the different implications, all the different challenges one might face. But at the same time, providing some initial indication whether there might be a facilitator that is needed, or some challenges that have been identified which might trigger some particular discussions. And at least we hope in this regard, it provides some useful insights as well. But as I see that we are nearly 5 minutes over time, and I do not see any further questions coming up, and also because we wanted to take the lunch break a little bit also to dive into it. I think what we would still like to have a very quick feedback from your side, and we have developed a poll, and there is one final question. I'm replying to that, but the rest, please, you should have actually received a window popping up with a poll and some questions included. 3 questions, one actually closed with just answering yes, no, or I do not yet know. But also, if you would like to provide some feedback in question 2 and 3, you can do so openly. So providing you some time in doing that. And I'm just reading in the chat by Monica, whether to use it at the beginning of a workshop or at the end. It really depends what kind of module you would like to use or what the aim of your workshop is. And of course, what kind of insights you would like to gain. You can structure, as said, an entire 2 days conference just using those different 6 modules. But you just might wish to use one module to approach it, and tend to decide when actually might be the best moment. Sometimes it's more useful to use it after certain introductions and presentations and some background information to be provided, but also some challenges the city faces. Also because then people get more comfy, they get some first insights into certain challenges, and to basically use it like that. But it really depends what kind of module we would like to use, and it's up to your creativity then also to see how you combine those different models. But some suggestions have been included.
Yeah, the way we used it in Gzira was the first three modules for the local stakeholder workshop. We had a bit of an introduction on the area, the project, just to get people into it. Then we dived into the workshop pretty quickly. Then we had further talks afterwards of things we were already planning, and then showing them that, you know, we also had the possibility of implementing their ideas, which they had appreciated a lot. So we did it like that quite early on in the workshop. This is one of the issues also with EU projects and others, that, you know, we were really, this tool is really great to have a more participatory approach and a co-design approach to nature-based solutions. However, European projects, the way they're written, and other forms of funding tend to already want you to have the idea. So there's this bit of disconnect, even though now we're seeing more, even in EU funding, how they want a more participatory approach or not. Just the proposal format is tricky. You have to use a lot of creative thinking to allow those participatory processes to be included in these sort of projects, which we obviously try to do in JUSTNature.
Okay, so I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat. I'd just like to thank Sonia very much, and thank you to Ed as well for presenting today. That was really interesting. It's a really nice tool, and it's great to have a chance to get your insights on it as well. And to everyone else, thank you for attending. If you'd like to hear more about our project, you can visit our project website. And also, as you can see in the chat, there's links to the Zenodo where you can actually download the JUSTPlanT tool and use it yourselves. Thank you so much.
And thank you for replying to the poll as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, and looking forward then to study the mural as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.